Have you ever felt stuck? Like no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to build the life you want. You set goals, you make promises. But days pass, then weeks. And you're right back where you started. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're lazy. It's because you've been taught to chase outcomes instead of mastering the system that creates them. This is Atomic Habits, a guide to the tiny changes that make a massive difference. No hype, no fluff. Just science-backed strategies for real change. In this audiobook, you'll discover why habits matter more than motivation, how to break bad patterns without willpower, and how to reprogram your life, one small habit at a time. Because success doesn't come from one big move. It comes from the small decisions you repeat every day. If you're ready to change your habits and your life, let's begin. Introduction of Atomic Habits by James Clear. Part 1: The day everything changed. Let me take you back to the end of my sophomore year in high school. It was a warm day. We were at school, and like any ordinary afternoon, we were messing around after class. One of my classmates stepped up to swing a baseball bat. It slipped from his hands mid-swing and came rocketing through the air, straight into my face. I don't remember the impact, but what followed changed my life. The bat hit me so hard it broke my nose, cracked my skull in multiple places, and shattered both of my eye sockets. It wasn't just a broken bone or a black eye. It was a trauma that nearly took my life. My brain swelled from the inside and I was confused, bleeding and in shock. I was taken to the nurse's office, answering questions like, "Who's the president with Bill Clinton?" It was actually George W. Bush. And struggling to even remember my mom's name. Before long I lost consciousness. I was rushed to a nearby hospital, where things only got worse. My body started to shut down. I couldn't breathe on my own. I had seizures eventually. They had to place me in a medically induced coma and fly me to a better equipped hospital in Cincinnati. While I was unconscious, hooked up to machines and fighting for life, my parents stood by terrified. It was one of the darkest nights of their lives. Years earlier they had stood in the same hospital when my little sister was diagnosed with leukemia. Now they were back, watching another child fight a battle no one saw coming. The next morning I slowly regained consciousness. My body was bruised and broken. I couldn't smell anything. And when I blew my nose, the trapped air from my skull fractures pushed my left eyeball outward. My face looked like I'd gone a few rounds with a professional boxer. It took months of recovery. Months of learning how to walk straight, how to see properly, and function like a normal human being again. And those months were brutal. Part 2: Getting back up. A year after the accident, I tried to return to the sport I loved, baseball, but things had changed. I wasn't the same athlete I used to be. I got cut from the varsity team as a junior, sent back to play with younger students. For someone who had trained for years and dreamed of greatness, it was crushing. I remember sitting in my car that day, radio on, tears in my eyes, trying to find a song that would take the pain away. But here's the thing, somewhere deep down, I still believed I had more in me. I believed I could be great. I just had to find another way to get there. And that's when I discovered the power of habits. Not the big, life-changing transformations you see in movies, but the tiny, boring, consistent actions that add up over time. Part 3: A New Start. When I got to Denison University, it felt like I'd been given a fresh slate. I joined the baseball team not as a star player, but as someone who had something to prove. And rather than trying to change everything at once, I started small. I went to bed early. I kept my dorm clean. I lifted weights a few times a week. I studied consistently, nothing flashy. No grand plan, just small, deliberate actions every day. And slowly things began to change. I got stronger, my grades improved. I earned respect, my self-confidence grew. Eventually, I became a starter on the team. Then captain. Then I was named to the all-conference team. By the time I graduated, I had received the school's top academic award and was listed in the record books for 8 different categories. No, I didn't become a professional athlete, but I fulfilled my potential. And that to me was even more meaningful. Part 4: Why Habits Work. Looking back, my success wasn't because I set huge goals. It wasn't about motivation or talent or even discipline. It was about showing up consistently and letting the small things compound. Here's the truth: tiny changes make a big difference. If you stick with them, it might not feel like much today. But if you do one small thing better each day, just 1%, you'll be surprised where you end up a year from now. Good habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. And bad habits, well, they work the same way but in reverse. Part 5: Sharing what I learned. In 2012, I started writing online. Just one article every Monday and Thursday. No fancy thirst, no fancy strategy. Just sharing what I'd learned from my personal experiments with habits, but consistency paid off again. Within a few months, 1,000 people subscribed to my email list. By the end of the year, there were 30,000. By 2014, that number had passed 100,000. By writing consistently, I became known for a topic. I was still learning about myself. I wasn't trying to be a guru. I was just sharing my journey. Eventually, I signed a book deal with Penguin Random House. And this book was born. Since then, I've spoken at major conferences, worked with pro sports teams, Fortune 500 companies, and created an online course, The Habits Academy, where over 10,000 leaders, managers, and coaches have learned how to apply habits in real life. And it all started with small habits. Part 6: What you'll learn in this book. This book isn't filled with fluff or hype. You won't find any one weird trick that will change your life overnight. What you will find is a simple, science-backed approach to building better habits. You'll learn a 4-step model that explains exactly how habits work. Cue the trigger that kicks off the habit. Craving, the desire or motivation; routine, the behavior you actually do; and reward, your brain likes response, the behavior itself. Reward, the benefit that reinforces the habit. You'll also learn the 4 laws of behavior change, practical strategies that will help you build good habits and break bad ones. These ideas come from biology, neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy. But don't worry, we'll keep it plain and practical. No jargon, just what works. More importantly, you'll learn how to take action. Because information isn't enough. You have to apply it. Part 7. This is for you whether you want to get in shape, start a business, improve your relationships, be more productive, or just stop procrastinating. Habits are at the core of all lasting change. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be consistent. This book will show you how to design habits that actually stick. Make good habits easy and automatic. Break free from bad habits that hold you back. Build a system that supports your goals, even when motivation fades. I wrote this book for people who want to improve, no matter where they're starting from. You don't need a major life overhaul. You don't need to wait for New Year's or some perfect moment like that. All you need is a plan, and that's what this book offers. Chapter Summary Introduction. This chapter shared my personal story. A devastating accident that nearly ended my life. And how I slowly rebuilt my strength and identity. Through small consistent habits from being unable to walk. Straight to becoming an award-winning student athlete. Everything changed. When I embraced the power of small steps. What began as a way to survive and heal became a lifelong philosophy. Habits shape your future. They are the invisible force behind your success or failure. You don't need to make massive changes to see massive results. You just need to start small and stick with it. In this book, you'll learn how habits work, why they matter, and how to use them to design a better life. The truth is simple: if you want better results, focus on better habits. And the journey to those habits starts right here. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Power of Tiny Habits. From ordinary to extraordinary. One step at a time. The British cycling miracle. Let's start with a story back in 2003. British cycling was, to put it lightly, a mess. They had a century-long streak of being pretty average. Almost no Olympic success. 0 wins in the Tour of France. And a reputation so poor that major bike manufacturers didn't even want their bikes associated with the team. But everything changed when a man named Dave Brailsford stepped in as the new performance director. His approach: nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just one simple philosophy: get 1% better in everything. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was simple: break down everything related to cycling training, nutrition, gear, sleep, recovery, and improve each area by just 1%. So they started doing things that seemed almost laughably minor: changing the bike seats to make them a bit more comfortable, using heated shorts to keep muscles warm during training, testing different massage gels for faster recovery, teaching riders how to wash their hands properly to avoid getting sick, even painting the inside of the team truck white to spot dust particles that might affect bike performance. Tiny changes, hardly noticeable at first. But 5 years later, the team absolutely crushed it. At the 2008 Beijing Olympics, winning 60% of the gold medals in cycling. For years after that in London, they broke world records. And then came the Tour de France victories. 5 wins in 6 years, the same riders, the same bikes, but an entirely different outcome. Thanks to a system of tiny consistent improvements. Why small habits matter more than you think. Most people believe that big goals require big actions. Lose 50 pounds, go on a crash diet, start $1 million business, burn the midnight oil for months, reinvent your life, make one giant leap. But the truth is more subtle and more powerful. The real game changer: tiny habits. Small shifts, simple routines done every day. Here's how it works. If you get just 1% better every day for a year, you'll end up 37 times better by the end. If you get 1% worse each day, you'll eventually crash to 0. Let that sink in. 1% might not feel like much, but over time it's a multiplier. It's the difference between staying stuck and breaking through. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Like money in a savings account. Your good habits build up quietly, slowly, until one day they explode into visible results. The invisible power of repetition. Here's where most people get tripped up. You hit the gym for a week, and you still feel out of shape. You eat healthier for a month, but the scale barely budges. You start writing your book, but the pages pile up slowly. So you give up, not because the habit didn't work, but because the payoff was delayed. It's like heating up an ice cube in a freezing room. At 25 degrees, nothing 26 degrees still frozen. 27 degrees 28 degrees fries. 29 degrees Fahrenheit 30 degrees. 30 degrees 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Still looks the same, but then at 32 degrees boom. It starts to melt. All that effort wasn't wasted. It was building up. The moment of transformation feels sudden. But the process is gradual. This is the plateau of latent potential. The valley where most people quit. But if you keep going, if you trust the process, the results will come. You repeat. Here's a powerful truth. Your current situation is a lagging result of your past habits. Your bank account is a reflection of your financial habits. Your body is a reflection of your eating and exercise habits. Your knowledge is a reflection of your reading and learning habits. Your messy room. Yep, your cleaning habits. Want a different future? Don't just set a new goal. Build a new system. Success isn't about sudden transformations. It's about consistent action. One small step at a time. Tiny choices, massive results. Think of your habits like the steering of a plane. If you adjust the course just a few degrees, no one notices, but fly long enough, and you'll land in a completely different city. Same with your life. A daily burger may not kill you this week, but in 10 years it adds up. Saving $5 a day won't make you rich overnight, but over decades that's wealth. Saying I love you to your partner every day might seem small, but over a lifetime it builds unshakable love. Tiny wins or tiny losses, they all add up. Time is your amplifier, it multiplies what you feed it. Good habits, time becomes your ally. Bad habits, time becomes your enemy. Habits work both ways. Good habits compound productivity. One extra task a day adds up to hundreds over a year. Knowledge, one book opens the door to new ideas. Better thinking, new solutions, relationships. A little more kindness, a little more gratitude. And people begin to respond in kind. But bad habits compound too: stress. Tiny frustrations, traffic bills. Arguments build up, negative thoughts. Think I'm not good enough often enough, and soon you'll believe it. Outrage. Daily irritations eventually become explosive moments. That's why it's so important to become intentional about your habits. Not just big ones, all of them. Even the small ones that feel like they don't matter. Because they do. Systems versus goals. Most people are taught to set goals. I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to write a book, I want to get promoted. Goals give you direction, but they don't guarantee progress. What actually drives change is your system. The way you eat, exercise, write, work, and live every day. Here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Focus on building a better system, and the results will follow. What's the difference? A goal is about the outcome you want. A system is about the process that leads to it. Example. Want to run a marathon? That's a goal. Training every morning, following a routine. Eating right, that's a system. Even if you never say, I want to be a marathoner, your system will still lead you there. Let's take another example. Cleaning your room, you can set a goal to clean it once. Boom, it's clean. But if you don't change your messy habits, it'll be a disaster again next week. A clean room isn't a goal problem. It's a system problem. The problem with goals. Let's break down why. Focusing only on goals can actually hold you back. One, winners and losers often have the same goals. Everyone wants to win, right? It's not the goal that separates people. It's the system they follow too. Achieving a goal is temporary. You get fit, great. But what if you stop working out? You slide back. Systems are what maintain your success. 3 goals can steal your happiness. If you think I'll be happy when I hit the goal, then you're postponing joy. But when you enjoy the system, working out, learning, creating, you can be happy now. 4. Goals create yo-yo motivation. Ever hit a goal then fall off the wagon? That's the problem. If your motivation dies with the goal, you won't keep the progress. Systems keep you going long after the goal is reached. Atomic habits equals big change from small actions. What makes a habit atomic? Small. Easy to do, easy to repeat. Mighty, it builds on itself and leads to big change. Foundational, it's part of a larger system. Like an atom in a molecule. These aren't random tricks or hacks. Atomic habits are the building blocks of transformation. Each small habit is a vote for the person you wanna become. You don't need to completely change your life overnight. You just need to make one better choice. And do it consistently. Final thoughts: the power of patience. Let's end with a truth that's easy to forget. In a world chasing instant results, mastery takes time, habits take time. Change takes time. Don't get discouraged by slow progress. The most dramatic transformations happen quietly. Then all at once. That's the power of atomic habits. Summary: the power of tiny habits. Small habits make a big difference. Improving just 1% each day leads to massive growth over time. Habits are like compound interest. They grow slowly at first, then suddenly multiply. Success comes from systems, not goals. Your habits and routines drive your results, not your ambitions. Time is a magnifier. Good habits get better over time. Bad habits get worse. Focus on the process. Enjoy the system, the results will come. Atomic habits are small, powerful routines that lead to remarkable transformation. Keep going, keep building. Keep stacking those tiny wins. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity and vice versa. From I want to change to this is who I am. Why good habits feel so hard, and bad ones stick like glue. Let's be honest. How many times have you promised yourself, this time I'm gonna stick to it? Whether it's eating healthy, exercising, meditating, or waking up early. Most of us start strong, full of motivation and good intentions. But somewhere between day 3 and day 10, things get messy. The early excitement fades. Life gets in the way, and before you know it, you're back to your usual routine. But why is that? Why is it so easy to slip into habits like scrolling endlessly on your phone, binge watching shows, or skipping workouts, and so hard to stick with the habits we know are good for us? Here's the truth: we often try to change the wrong thing, and we try to change in the wrong way. This chapter is all about fixing that. Starting with the first and biggest mistake we make: focusing on what we want to achieve instead of who we want to become. The 3 layers of behavior change. Imagine peeling an onion. At the outermost layer, you have outcomes, the results you want. Go 1 layer deeper and you'll find processes, the actions and systems you follow to get those results. At the very core is identity, your beliefs about who you are. Let's break this down. Outcome level: I want to lose 20 pounds. Process level: I'm going to work out and eat more vegetables. Identity level: I'm a healthy person. Most people stay stuck at the outcome level. They focus on goals like run a marathon or write a book. Nothing wrong with that. But outcomes are just the surface. Real lasting change happens when we go deeper. When our actions reflect a new identity. Identity-based habits versus outcome-based habits. Here's an example. Picture 2 people trying to quit smoking. Person A says no thanks. I'm trying to quit. Person B says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Feel the difference. Person A still sees themselves as a smoker. Who's trying to act differently? Person B. sees themselves as someone who no longer smokes. That tiny shift in language. It reflects a much deeper shift in mindset. This is the power of identity-based habits. They're not about forcing yourself to do something. They're about becoming someone new. Why identity comes first. Most people say things like I want to get fit, so I'll follow this workout plan. I want to be organized, so I'll buy a planner. I want to stop procrastinating, so I'll set strict deadlines. These are all process-based approaches. And again, they're not wrong. But if your internal beliefs don't match your external goals, you'll always feel friction. You might want to wake up early. But if you still believe I'm not a morning person, you'll sabotage yourself. You might plan to eat healthier. But if deep down you believe I have no self-control, you'll fall off the wagon as soon as stress hits. Your current habits are a reflection of your current identity. To change your behavior for good, you need to change your story. The invisible script that shapes your life. We all carry invisible scripts in our heads. Stories we've told ourselves for years. I'm bad at math, I'm always late. I'm not creative, I can't stick with anything. These beliefs may feel like facts, but they're just habits of thought repeated so often. They feel like part of who we are, but they're not set in stone. You can rewrite those scripts. Let's look at a real-world example. The nail-biting entrepreneur. Brian Clark, a successful entrepreneur, had a nail-biting habit for years. One day he decided to stop. He managed to hold off long enough for his nails to grow a bit. And then he did something surprising. He booked a manicure. Why? He figured if he paid to make his nails look good, he'd be less tempted to bite them. But what really changed everything wasn't the cost. It was the pride when he saw his nails clean and healthy for the first time. Something clicked. He liked being someone who took care of his hands. That new identity, someone who cares for his appearance, was what helped him stop for good. He didn't just change his behavior. He changed who he saw himself as. You become what you do over and over again. This is the heart of it all. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Read one page, vote I'm a reader. Go for a walk, vote I'm an active person. Skip fast food, vote I make healthy choices. You don't need 100% of the votes to win. You just need a majority. This means you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent enough to tilt the scale. The two-step identity shift. So how do you start changing your identity? It's simpler than you think. 1. Decide who you want to be. 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Let's say you want to be a more confident public speaker. Don't start by saying I need to give a TED Talk. Start by saying I'm someone who prepares and speaks up in meetings. Then show up with notes, speak up once. That's your first vote over time. Those votes add up, and soon you don't need to convince yourself. You are a confident speaker. This approach works for anything. Want to be a better parent? Spend 5 minutes fully present with your kid. No phone. Want to be financially responsible? Track your spending today. Want to be a writer? Write 1 paragraph today. How I became a writer, 1 habit at a time. Here's something personal from the author. James Clear, he never thought of himself as a writer. In fact, his teachers would probably have said he was average at best, but when he started his blog, he committed to publishing 2 articles every week. 1 on Monday, 1 on Thursday. He didn't wait until he felt like a writer. He wrote anyway, week after week. Post after post. Those votes added up. Slowly his identity shifted. Now writing isn't just what he does. It's who he is. That's the power of small, repeated actions. Beware the other side of identity. Here's the flip side. Just like good habits can reinforce a positive identity, bad habits can trap you in a negative one. Every time you avoid a hard conversation, you vote for being someone who stays silent. Every time you scroll instead of sleeping, you vote for being someone who neglects rest. And often the biggest problem isn't the habit. It's the identity behind it. You might think I'm just lazy. I've never been good with money. That's just not who I am. But those beliefs aren't truths. They're habits of thought. And they can be changed one vote at a time. Let go of old versions of yourself. Growth means letting go of parts of your identity that no longer serve you. If you've always seen yourself as the quiet one, you may avoid speaking up even when you want to. If you've believed I'm bad with change, you may resist opportunities that could help you grow. We do this to protect our self-image. But sometimes that protection becomes a prison. To change, you must be willing to rewrite your story. How identity shapes behavior and vice versa. So here's the big idea. Habits and identity work in a loop. Your habits shape your identity. And your identity reinforces your habits. They're constantly feeding each other. This is why even tiny changes can lead to massive shifts. Because they affect how you see yourself. Once you believe you're the kind of person who sticks to a routine, it becomes easier to keep showing up. And that's how real transformation begins. Not with a big goal but with small votes that change the way you see yourself. Chapter Summary. There are 3 levels of behavior change. Outcomes: what you get. Process is what you do. And identity, what you believe. Most people focus on the outcome level. I want to lose weight, but the most effective change starts at the identity level. I'm a healthy person. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You don't need to be perfect. Just consistent enough to win the majority. Your habits aren't just things you do. They're how you become someone new. Wanna be a writer? Write. Wanna be organized? Tidy one thing. Want to be calm? Meditate for 1 minute. You don't have to fake it till you make it. You just need to act like the person you want to become. One small step at a time. The ultimate reason habits matter isn't just for achieving goals. It's for becoming the kind of person you're proud to be. Your habits are your identity in motion. So the real question is, who are you becoming today? Chapter 3. How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Let's rewind to the year 1898. A psychologist named Edward Thorndike was conducting experiments that would eventually change how we understand human behavior even now. Over a century later, Thorndike's idea was simple but profound. Could animals learn through experience? He placed hungry cats inside wooden boxes. He called puzzle boxes. These boxes weren't complicated. Just little cages with levers or buttons. The cats could push to open a door. Outside the door, a bowl of food. As you might expect, the cats didn't immediately know what to do. At first, they'd scratch the walls, push against corners, or meow in frustration. But after a bit of random movement, one cat would accidentally press the lever. The door would pop open and off it would go. Straight to the food. Then Thorndike put the same cat back into the box. What happened next is key. The more often the cat was placed in the box, the faster it figured out how to escape. Eventually, the cat didn't waste time scratching at the walls or exploring aimlessly. It went straight for the lever and hit it within seconds. This wasn't just luck, this was learning. And more importantly, it was habit formation. Why your brain builds habits. So what exactly is a habit? In plain terms, a habit is something you've done so many times that it becomes automatic. You no longer think about it. You just do it, and the way you build a habit is the same as that. Cat in the box through trial and error. Let's say you've had a long, stressful day at work. You get home and try a few different things to unwind. One day you go for a walk. Another day you watch Netflix. Then one day you pour yourself a glass of wine. Sit on the couch and boom. You feel relief. Guess what happens the next time you feel stressed? Your brain remembers. That glass of wine helped last time. And just like that, a habit starts to take shape. You don't build habits because you're lazy or weak-willed. You build them because your brain is efficient. It's constantly looking for ways to solve problems with the least amount of effort. That's how habits save energy. When a habit is formed, your brain can go on autopilot. You free up mental bandwidth to focus on other things. That's why once a habit becomes automatic, it's so powerful and so hard to break. But here's the beautiful part. Habits aren't fate, they're built. And anything that's built can be rebuilt. Habits give you freedom, not restrictions. A common misconception is that habits make life boring. That building routines means you're stuck in a robotic loop. But think about this. The people who struggle the most with freedom are usually the ones who lack strong habits. If you don't have solid financial habits, you're constantly stressed about money. If you don't have good health habits, you're always battling low energy or illness. If you don't have productivity habits, your days slip away in a fog of distraction. In reality, habits create freedom. They give you a strong foundation, so you can focus on what really matters. When your habits take care of the basics, your mind is free to explore new ideas, take risks and grow. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And habits are the invisible architecture of those systems. The four-part formula behind every habit. Every habit you have, good or bad, follows the same basic process. It doesn't matter if it's brushing your teeth or scrolling through Instagram. Here's the simple 4-step loop. 1. Cue 2. Craving 3. Response 4. Reward. Let's break each one down. Let 1 cue the trigger. A cue is a piece of information that tells your brain it's time to act. It could be something you see, hear, smell, or feel. You walk into your kitchen and see cookies on the counter. That's a cue. Your phone buzzes with a notification. That's a cue. You feel anxious before a big meeting. That's a cue. 2 cues are everywhere, constantly telling your brain to start a behavior. 2. Craving, the desire. A cue only matters if it sparks a craving. You're not motivated by the cue itself. You're motivated by what it promises. You don't crave the act of smoking. You crave the feeling of relief. You don't crave coffee, you crave the energy boost. You don't crave social media. You crave connection or distraction. Cravings are the emotional drivers behind habits. Part 3. Response. The action. This is the actual habit. The thing you do. But whether or not you act depends on 2 things. How motivated you are, how easy it is to do. If something feels too hard or inconvenient, you'll skip it. That's why small changes work best. When a habit is easy, you're more likely to stick with it. For reward. The payoff. This is the moment your brain says yes. That felt good, let's remember this for next time. Rewards serve 2 purposes. 1. They satisfy your craving. 2. They teach your brain what to repeat. Without a reward, a habit won't stick. It's the feeling of satisfaction or relief that locks the loop in place. Real life example.